Hey guys, welcome back for some more tutorials. My name is Magnet, and today we're going to be talking about using Banelings in ZvZ, both using them as an offensive tool and using them as a defensive tool, and also defending from Baneling timings and whatnot. We're going to also address the Ling Bane micro that's really hard to use in ZvZ, but we're going to kind of explain it for the people that don't exactly understand what you want to shoot for with this micro. But of course, knowledge is power, and if you have the knowledge as far as microing correctly against these other players that might be on the same unit composition, which is Ling Baneling, then you're going to get a really big advantage. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about transitions and ways you can mix in Banelings into the late game, which we haven't seen as far as when these replays were dated, but this is really a recent development that I think is important to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump into the game here. We're going to be watching Su versus Life. Su, of course, the yellow Zerg, and we can see Life up here at the other side. I'm not exactly sure what these replays are going to show us in terms of the specifics. I know I have enough variety to cover everything that we want to cover, but I haven't seen these replays in quite a while. It's probably been like 3 weeks, and I've seen hundreds of replays in between, so just bear with me while we get to the stage of the game where the Banelings start to matter. Now, like we talked about many times in ZvZ, opening up hatch first is a risk, so I just open up pool first. Su just decides to do it anyway. I will mention, I've talked about this a lot, that hatch first doesn't really offer you that much it's really worth it. However, the one thing it does offer, and I'm finally going to talk about this, is that it does offer faster creep at your natural. And that may seem really stupid to you, but it actually can be an advantage if you're expecting to have to defend against Banelings, because you can get faster spines up, you can get faster walls up to defend against Banelings, you can get a lot of stuff down there quicker than on a pool first type of build. So it sounds funny, but hatchery first can be a good defensive build, but you need to understand that if you're going to run hatch first, then you need to know how to defend yourself from all kinds of different early pool timings and aggressive timings. But this is one of the bigger advantages of opening hatch first, is you do get creep faster down on the low ground, and it allows you to defend from these specific Baneling timings a lot better. So that's just one thing you probably should know. I say it all the time that you probably shouldn't open hatch first in ZvZ, but this is the one time where I'm going to explain why people do open hatch first and the different advantages that it offers. Of course, I always do pad that with the fact that the players that you play won't be Su in Life. They won't be as crisp with their timings, and you'll probably have more time to set up your defense against these mostly type of things. So the creep on the low ground tends to not matter as much in lower level games. But I thought that I'd at least explain my reasoning behind telling people to not hatch first in ZvZ, and just saying that if you really want to and you really can understand what the difference is, then you can go ahead and do that. Now, this early spine crawler blind here from Life is one of the better ways to defend against Baneling timings, and I mean, really, if you're having a hard time in the Baneling micro wars, then just getting this spine crawler kind of blindly, maybe even a second one if you want to play super safe, is okay to get. Obviously, it does cost you money and drones, but still, this is one of the better ways to defend against that, along with, say, a wall, for example, of like Evolution Chambers and a Roach Warren. That'll flat out defend you from most Baneling timings. So if you really hate this type of playstyle and you want to just avoid it, open up with a faster spine crawler, get a creep shimmer down right after you inject this hatchery, which you can see coming up right now, and start to get your wall up and just funnel them into one little location that's really easy to defend. However, I don't think that that's the way that this game is going to go. I think this is more of a Ling Baneling micro battle. And we can see Life adding on a lot of Zerglings here, so it looks like he's going to be the aggressive one. And here's the Baneling nest here from Su as well. So Su scouting in here, trying to figure out what's going on. This is something you can do with your Lings like we talked about in the scouting video. But if it comes down to Baneling versus Baneling, then we're going to address that, and we're going to talk about who has the advantage in that and the ways you can gain an advantage. So the one thing you really need to do, like we talked about in the scouting videos, you need to spread your overlords out along the map so you can see attacks like this coming. He could see this a long time ago coming all the way from life space, so he knows what's going on. He also has a lot of Zerglings of his own. He's adding on a spine crawler to defend against those Banelings. And we're going to see these guys kind of grind this out, and we're going to explain what they're doing. Of course, at a slower speed, considering if you watch this at full speed, it's just mind-blowing how fast they can do these things. So we'll do our best here to kind of decompose these battles for you. So both the players' Baneling nests are finishing up right now. A little bit of a Zergling micro battle here, nothing too crazy. It's really just a numbers battle, actually, not really about micro. So Su is going to be the defender in this circumstance, and one of the best ways to defend against this also is a lot of queens, and you really need to focus your attack micro as far as on your ranged units on the Banelings. That's going to be what this is all about, is reducing the Baneling count as effectively as possible. You don't want to just attack move in there and hope things work out. So if you can maybe get all of his Banelings clumped up and you can hit him with your own Banelings, that's one way to get rid of them. Another way is to target fire well with your queens on each individual one. And a third way is to pull off individual Zerglings and assign them to Banelings that might be trying to get detonations here. If you are the Baneling user, you obviously need to avoid being picked apart one Zergling at a time. You need to make sure your Banelings are spread out so you don't take big hits from lesser amounts of Banelings that trade well against you. And what you really want with these Banelings is you want to hit his big Zergling clump. So that if you can ever hit the big Zergling clump and you have your own Zerglings left over, that's how you're going to win most of these games. And to a lesser extent, one of the better ways to break spine crawler defenses like this is to spend your Banelings blowing up spines. It seems like a waste, but it's actually really worthwhile if you have no other valid targets to spend it that way. So we're going to watch these battles really start to develop a little bit. You can see Su morphing a couple Banelings back here at his ramp. This is also another little tactic that you can use, is that the Zerg player that's being the aggressor typically won't have high ground vision up here. So if you want to be the defender, you can sit your Banelings here at the top of the ramp, and if he just moves everything up here, he's not going to know that these Banelings are here until they're already on top of his army. So that's one good way to get really good defensive Baneling detonations. So use the terrain and stuff to your advantage, especially the high grounds are really important. So we're going to see life start to push up here a little more. Notice that Su is always running his Zergling clump away from the Banelings, and he's going to use the method of trying to target down the Banelings with his queens and his spines in order to reduce this Baneling count here from life. So coming forward here, the queens are starting to take a little bit of damage. You can see the targeting coming down on the spine crawler. And if Su's Banelings get in here and they can trade even 2 for 3 Banelings, that's going to be a great trade for him. Plus he's also going to kill some Zerglings with it. So a couple of Banelings are here. They kill a lot of Zerglings. These queens should be kind of on their own separate hotkey along with the spine crawler, so you can individually click down Banelings and kill them one at a time without them dealing too much damage. Secondarily, the drone line is a place that Banelings can be targeted, but honestly that's not that great of a trade from Banelings to try to be hitting drones, unless you can hit all of them with like one Baneling or something. It's mostly you want Zerglings to be killing the drones. So you can still see this kind of break down a little bit. Notice that these are a little bit hard to tell the color differences, but Life's Banelings are more orangish red, considering he is a red player, but both of them do have these kind of yellowish pouches, so this might be a little bit hard to watch. But the Banelings are just trying to trade in here as good as possible. If you were to blow this one up right now, this would kill all the Zerglings here. It would even weaken this Baneling enough in order to kill it. You can see Life wants to trade against this spine, which like I said is not the worst trades ever. But considering Su, oh, he didn't blow up that Baneling. That's really unfortunate. Another thing I really should mention here, I'm sorry to skip this far ahead and not mention, is that these Banelings, you always want to have them on move command. You never want to have them on attack command until you're ready to blow them up. So honestly, it's a lot better micro to have these Banelings just walking around on move command so that they don't just blow up on one Zergling, for example. And then you can manually detonate them with this hotkey here. So if you can ever just move one Baneling around and just not have it on attack move and just move it around until you get in the right position and then manually detonate it, that's usually how you're going to get the best trades as far as, you know, making sure these Banelings aren't detonating on one Zergling. If these Banelings are just on attack move and one Zergling walks up, then you're going to trade one Baneling for one Zergling, and that is awful. That you're never going to want trades like that, and that's one of the best ways for the other Zerg player to decompose your Baneling count. So we're still going to watch a little bit of this. You can see the Zerglings are trying to get in here and kill queens. If you're being the offender here, you definitely want to try and trade queens out. The one Baneling is getting a little bit desperate. It's trying to look for a big drone kill here. So you want to definitely keep your drones away from this. You can just kind of fan out a little bit, and if the Baneling explodes on a couple drones, then really that's a better trade for you, because if they're having to spend Banelings killing drones, that's not the greatest trade unless they kill all of them. So Banelings are coming up here right now. You can see just trying to defend against this. And Life knows that one Baneling won't kill drones until they have attack upgrades. So he knows he can just eat the damage and not really care. So if there's just one Baneling in your mineral line, just be like, okay, whatever. That's not really going to do much, and just keep your Zerglings away. So you can see more Zerglings being taken down here. Life's just trying to pick off the hurt Zerglings right now, really not, or rather the hurt drones right now. And because Su was able to get good detonations, he was able to kill off the Life Banelings economically. Now he's at a really good supply lead right now. The income favors him, the army supply favors him, so he's in great shape. And it didn't look like he did all that much, but really he just traded with those Banelings economically. and you really just can't afford to take big Baneling hits on your Zerglings. That's the biggest part of this. So you can see it's kind of from both sides. We're talking about both defending it and using it as an attack tactic at the same time. But at least this will kind of explain and decompose these Baneling battles a little bit better so that you can understand what's going on. And like I've always talked about in ZvZ, if you ever get an advantage where you're both on the same unit composition, like if you defend a big attack here, you should be looking to try to get into their base right away, especially if you're using Banelings as well. You can do cute things like this, like morphing Banelings here on the side. Maybe he loses containment on those and they can walk in there and kill a bunch of drones. There's a lot of counterattack potential with this type of composition, and these battles can just spread all over the map. And if you have better know-how and better understanding of everything, and you can control your Banelings and Zerglings properly, this is a way you can really just win in ZvZ if you just have better micro. It seems hard, and it favors certain players over others, but if you're one of the players that just relies on your micro a lot more than other players, then that's the ways you can get wins, and that's with these Baneling compositions. So here we go. Here's these tricky Banelings kind of just filtering in a little bit, and we usually talk about not really being worth it. So Life's being really desperate right now, trying to block these. He does really well, actually. Just eat some damage with these Zerglings and the Queen to defend against those drones getting killed. And like I said, it's not really worth trading Banelings for drones unless you kill a bunch of them. And if both these Banelings got in here, they would probably kill like 7 or 8 drones. And you can see Life is still forced to produce units right now, and that would put Sue ahead by a good 12 drones or so if those were able to land. So it's not usually worth it, but if you're already ahead and you can land Baneling hits like that, then all of a sudden it becomes worth it. So notice Life is morphing his Banelings here on the high ground of the ramp, so if Sue were just to run all of his Banelings up at the same time, they'd all get blown up. So Sue really needs to keep his Zerglings separated. You can even see him pulling these 4 or 5 out of the way in order to try to get them away from the Baneling hits. So just keeping them spread and dealing damage the best you can is the best way to do it against defensive Banelings if you only have Zerglings. And right now, Sue isn't really trying to do anything other than just press his advantage. He's not really that interested in following this up with a big attack here, but if he does game-ending damage by coincidence because he held that first attack so well, then all of a sudden he's in really good shape. So if you're Sue here, you have to understand that Life does need to continue to produce Zerglings. So you can kind of trade in here, but this is a point where you could start to squeeze in a couple drones, which you can see them coming out right now. Because your opponent is on the defensive, and you are already ahead in workers, you can squeeze in drones between this, and just keep that economic advantage going in the meantime. You're going to see this a lot of times from the better Zerg players, but if you ever have a tempo advantage in the sense that you pushed off an attack of theirs, you can see him trying to morph another Baneling over here, trying to be a little bit cute, is Sue, but Life does pick up on it. But squeezing in drones in the middle of this is really important, and you need to understand the times in which you can do that. If you try to drone when he's attacking at you, then that's when you die. So really it's just getting an advantage in these early battles is going to lead into more opportunities to get you an economic advantage later. So notice Sue during this whole time is really just going to have his Banelings on move command, trying to move toward the Zerglings of Life or towards the mineral line, wherever kind of puts Life in a bad position. Life is just smartly trying to buy time against this because he knows he just doesn't have the resources back at home to hold something like this quite yet. So he's just running his Zerglings around in circles and kind of just wasting time. And if Sue loses containment on these and these get into Sue's base, then all of a sudden his economic advantage is nullified. So we can see a lot more stuff rallying up here, and we're finally going to see these armies start to collide now that Life has bought enough time to hopefully try and get enough stuff to hold this off. But I think Sue's lead by this point is just too big. Notice he's splitting his Banelings right now. He's going to move his Banelings on move command, so they don't just attack move into this Queen. You never want to do that. You want to get these Banelings to be hitting Zerglings if you possibly can, and that's the whole point with these Banelings, just to push them around. So let's slow this down so we can watch this battle. Banelings come up here, good targeting here from Life, just to try and target down the Banelings best he can. Notice that he basically spent some Spinecrawler health and some Queen health dealing with all those Banelings. But Sue, again, oh, sick Baneling hit right there. He kills a whole bunch of Zerglings, and those are type of hits that just end the game. If you can get a hit like that, or if you take a hit like that, that's basically game over, because you lost all of your Zerglings. You have one Baneling, and really no other tools back at home here. So that's another little tactic that you can use. If there's a lot of stuff chasing your Lings, you can kind of bait them back into Banelings and whatnot, and that was really just Life's mistake there, running all of them into that big hit. And now I think Life knows that he's pretty much dead, and this is going to be really hard to hold. He's desperately trying to wall, like we talked about before, is another option as far as holding these off. But there's still just so much here. It's going to be so hard to hold. He can just poke down the wall here, do basically whatever he wants. He trades the Baneling for another Baneling and the Spinecrawler damage. So Sue is really just getting into a basically unlosable position at this point. And we can see that the game ends in another minute or so. So that at least kind of breaks down the Baneling versus Baneling micro. on some level. We're going to jump into another replay here that's going to show you more so how to defend specific Baneling timings and kind of different ways you can do that and be as economic as possible from stuff like that. So maybe you can just not get yourself into those mirror micro situations if you're having a hard time with that, but at least now you know that how they operate, you can get an advantage in that. So let's take a look at this game and we'll watch, I think this is Symbol versus Hydra, yeah, okay. I'm not sure which one's the aggressor here. Usually it's Hydra, considering he's known to be super timing oriented and even to the point where it's a little bit gimmicky in all of his matchups. So I think Hydra's the one that tries the attack here. So I think we're going to be watching mostly from Symbol's perspective. So let's kind of continue forward until we get to that point. Hydra dropping the pool first, again Symbol going hatch first, and again the only trade-off here is maybe one extra drone and getting the faster creep spread on the low ground, so that's really the only advantage that you have. Just thought we'd review that just to be sure. Obviously pool first is a lot safer, especially against really early pool shenanigans. And of course, I do need to mention, I've mentioned this quite a few times in these early ZvZs, is that producing at least one pair of Zerglings is kind of essential, just to be sure that you don't start taking drone losses and whatever while you're waiting for your queen to come out. So just producing 1 or 2 pairs of early Zerglings is really essential, and like we thought, it actually is Symbol going for the Baneling nest, so never mind. I thought it was going to be Hydra, considering he is so timing oriented, but Symbol's putting down that defensive spine crawler, again not wanting to get too risky here. This looks like more of a defensive Baneling play, considering he's not making a ton of Zerglings right now, so you can be defensive in your Baneling plays, so I guess it isn't... It's been a while since I've watched these, but again, this isn't going to be... Yeah, here we go. The Zergling swell starts from Hydra now. So that makes more sense. Defensive Baneling openers definitely are a thing here, so he's just producing a pair of Banelings, producing the Spine Crawler. He's going to start pushing his creep forward. This is one really good opener that I really like, especially in these mirror Baneling micro situations. If you just accept being the defender like Sue did last game, you should win most of those, considering your reinforcements are going to come out right back at your base. And you can usually rely on Spine Crawlers and stuff to deal a lot of the damage, as well as defensive queens if you can keep them on creep. So this is a good opener here from Symbol. I really like it a lot. And yeah, here's Hydra adding on the Baneling nest here, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be the aggressor. And look at the... I'm sorry, we missed that just a little bit, but the Baneling hits here. Notice how he's spreading them out, trying to hit on these Zerglings. I think he just traded one Baneling for maybe 6 or 7 Lings, and that's exactly what the kind of trades that you want. I'm sorry I missed that. But still trying to micro around here. You don't want to let the Zerglings start to pick them apart. You know, you could see that those Banelings weren't on move command, so he just traded 2 Lings for 1 Baneling, and that's a better trade for the Zerglings. Here comes a lot of the Zerglings right now. Hydra's going to start getting really aggressive here, and it's really on Symbol to defend against stuff like this, so extra queens, putting out your own defensive Banelings, especially having the Overlord vision around the map is going to be really important to know about that. So you can see a lot of Zerglings being added on still. Hydra's even taking a 3rd base behind this, which isn't going to do a whole lot until after he maybe deals some damage with this attack. So this is pretty all-in, actually. Sounds pretty funny saying it's pretty all-in taking the Hatcher, but he's really relying a lot on dealing damage with this. So if Symbol can just defend this okay, then he should be in really good shape. So a lot of Banelings morphing here for Hydra. We're going to see the defense start to come up here from Symbol. You can see he's really worried about this, and he didn't catch it until kind of late. His Overlord spread actually isn't that good, so he just now realized what's going on, and he's being like, oh no, I need to definitely kind of panic here and get a good defense going and hope I can get good Baneling connections, otherwise I'm going to die. So Symbol starts a bunch of extra spines. He's also going Spire behind this, which we haven't quite talked about in ZvZ yet, but one of the best ways to deal with Spire builds is just to be super aggressive with Ling Baneling, and that's what I think Hydra is prepping for here. So if you're running Spire builds like this, you should be prepared to get into these type of micro situations. So this will kind of lead into later videos when we start talking about Spire ZvZ, but we'll get there. So this is a lot of Banelings coming up here. This is a ton of Banelings actually. So this is the point where you need to use your target firing on your spines. Try to get good Baneling trades, target fire on your queens well, just to target these Banelings down. Because if you let your Zerglings die to these, and you let your Banelings die to these, then you're just going to be in bad shape. At least letting your Banelings die to these without getting good trades. And you can see, targeting down a couple of Banelings here. He's trying to get some lateral trades. He's spending some Banelings trying to kill this Spine Crawler. But if you have extra Spine Crawlers and they do that, then all of a sudden that's not a great trade for them. Some decent connections here. Are these +1 Armorlings? Yeah, they are. So, the +1 Armorlings, we're watching Hydra lose everything here, by the way. I was just going to mention the +1 Armorlings will take 2 Baneling hits to kill instead of just 1. So +1 armor Baneling Zergling is a pretty strong style if you're good at Baneling micro, but This is Hydra messing up here. This is Hydra getting all of his Baneling, or all of his Zerglings killed by Banelings, and we're going to see basically his entire army disappear. And now that it's just Banelings, you can spread your drones out, you can wait for the Spine Crawlers to deal their damage, you can get extra Queens out. This is basically held now that Hydra kind of messed up like that and lost all of his Zerglings that quickly. You can see, like, what did he really kill here? His timing absolutely needed to do damage, and he didn't really do much. Symbol even pulling a few drones here just to try and tank some Baneling shots. But all of a sudden, Symbol, he's pretty far ahead right now. 43 to 38. He has better tech coming down. The Spire's about to finish, and he could start killing him with that. Hydra's getting super desperate here, so Symbol still isn't quite out of the woods yet, but he definitely still does need to hold. You can see a lot of Spines coming down, even Spines in the main, just in case Zerglings decide to run in. Really good trades here on the Zerglings, but again, the Zerglings do have +1 armor, so they're pretty tanky against these Baneling hits once they get that +1 armor down. Again, look at Hydra mess this up here, taking a lot of hits from the Banelings, and all of a sudden, if Symbol can get good hits here, and notice that they're all on the ramp, they're all with high ground advantage, considering Symbol can see what's coming up the ramp and Hydra can't until it's too late. So that's why he's getting such great trades here. And if he can decompose these, he's getting great hits here. Now the Spine Crawler can poke this down. Trading Spines for a lot of Banelings is good. All of a sudden the Mutalisks are going to be out in just a minute, and you can start to kill the Baneling and Zergling aggression with the Mutas. Now this base is going to be almost impossible to hold here, and Symbol has an enormous advantage. So this is really just a game that's breaking down to Hydra making mistakes with his control, and it's totally costing him because he had every advantage in the world here. He had +1 Lings, he had way more Banelings, but because he messed up with his control, that can just end the game really fast, like we talked about. So I at least hope that some good ideas as far as holding these Baneling timings, and at least decompose the Baneling micro down to something that's pretty easy to understand. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back with more videos here very soon. There may have been a little bit of a glitch here between putting the ending screen and the game back together because I'm a knob and I hit stop, but so sorry if that was a little bit rough, but we'll be talking a lot more about ZvZ in the very near future. Hopefully we'll get into more late game stuff, more Spire stuff, to give you guys some different options in this matchup. But yeah, for the time being, hope you guys enjoyed it, and take care.